You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. Welcome to all of you. So today we're going to be talking about anxiety. I know even saying those words can make us all just feel tense inside, but anxiety has many different levels to it. Sometimes it's just the annoyance of the day that make our skin crawl, or the times that things keep us up at night, that are heavy on our heart, that are burdens in our life. Or maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's a mental health condition that we're struggling with. And we're going to be talking about various versions of anxiety today. So if you have any questions about that, do call in. The number to reach us is 800-333-0001. Again, 800-333-0001. And also, we'd love to hear from you. So if you have questions about today's show, or if you feel that you have a story that may be good to share with our community that would be inspiring to all of us, motivate us to live life full out, go ahead and reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Again, that's connect@livingfullout.com. And if you want to see or hear, I should say, today's show again, go to livingfullout.com. Just click on our radio show tab and you can listen to today's show and all of our past shows there waiting for you. But again, today we're talking about anxiety. And, you know, when we think about anxiety, we can go to the deepest, darkest places, or we can say to ourselves, you know what, I don't like to feel this way. I want relief. I want to feel lighter. I want to feel freer. How do I do that? And that's when you tap into shows like this. That's when you reach out to a friend, a family member, or even an organization or a hotline to get the support you need. You don't want to stay in the gray zone of anxiety for too long. You don't want it to slip you further into a more depressed state. So wherever you are today on that scale, just know that support is here to help you. We're actually going to go to the phone lines now and talk to one of our callers. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for calling. How can I help you?
I just had a question, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I've been having trouble, getting myself out there because I kind of get shy, or I get very anxious when I try to talk to people, make friends. I get very anxious. So I was trying to wonder, how am I able to get myself out there, or how am I put myself out there more?
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think is one of your best attributes?
Whoa, it's actually tough. I'm trying to think right
because
now.
Is it because there's so many that you're having a hard time choosing, or?
Well, I mean, I will consider myself very humorous. I can very much take a joke. I very much love playing around and stuff.
Okay, and what do you think a second great quality would be?
There's so many. I'm trying to think.
I know.
Well, I've been told by family members that I'm very good with listening. When people talk, I'm very good observer.
Okay. So the reason why I ask you those questions is because when you are in shy mode and you're intimidated and you're feeling as though you don't want to communicate with people, you might want to be by yourself, you're not allowing those great attributes of yourself to shine. Because somebody, maybe a current friend of yours or maybe someone you don't know yet, they really would love your humor. It would break up the anxiety in their day. It would make them feel good. You might be able to put a spin on something on a bad day they're having. Or maybe even being a good listener. If you restrict yourself from living full out, from playing full out in life, then you're not allowing, yourself to fully be thriving in all aspects, but also you're limiting your ability to connect and even influence others. Do you see that?
Yeah, I really do.
So you actually have, my sweet friend, you have a higher purpose, a higher calling as the being that you are, humorous, good listener. You have to let those qualities shine. You have to make sure that you let others into your world, or all of that greatness is not being utilized. Do you see that?
Yeah, because I see that myself kind of holding back every time I try to talk to somebody, or
well, and I
be
would
myself.
Yeah, and don't hold back. Be you. I mean, if I were you, I would walk outside today and, I mean, I don't know, walk with a little bit of a strut, feel proud about yourself, but you got a lot going on. So let that shine.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there. Be that friend to people. Okay? I know you can do that, but I want to thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you so much for helping me. Honestly, it kind of helped me, get things straight and, make me think a little.
Well, you know what? I believe in you, and I want you to believe in you so that everybody else can see how great you and I both know you are, right?
Yeah.
We know you're great, right? Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you so much for calling in. Have a great day, okay?
Thank you, and you too.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sometimes in life we just have to be reminded of, what do we have to give? What is our purpose in life? Because we can let ourselves stir and just be kind of loaded down with the weight of the world. But to let ourselves be free, to unchain ourselves from all those restrictions and commitments and doubts and fears and anxieties, you just have to look inside yourself. You just have to know, what are my great qualities? What do I have to give in the world? And I promise you, the answers to your questions are already inside you. You just have to take a pause, take time to listen and look inside, and they're there. Or call your friend Nancy. That's what I'm here for. And we'll find that out together. So we're going to go back to the phone lines again. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Hi, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
How can I help you? Yeah.
I just have a question. So I tend to become anxious when approaching job interviews, and it's starting to become hindering. So can you give me any tips on becoming more confident when approaching potential employers?
So you get anxious when employers do what or say what to you specifically?
Oh, it's just the whole process. I feel confident, up to the point where I'm there, and then I just, the nerves start hitting me, and I just feel like I'm going to, say a wrong answer, or, I just think the worst. And I try not to, but it just, I don't know, it just comes automatic.
Okay, and is this when you're looking for a job or when you're already hired in a job?
No, this is when I'm going to an interview.
You're going to an interview. Gotcha. Okay. So here's the thing. Nerves are just a natural part of life. Personally, I love the butterflies. That first time before a really good date, or right before you take a test, or going to a job interview. Those are healthy butterflies. Those are healthy nerves. You want that because then you're going to be your bubbly self, your energetic self. But you have to remember that these people don't know you. They don't know the greatness that's within you. So you have to let that shine and make sure that you go to any interview with tangible examples of your experience, because that will ground you. When we tend to flitter around like the butterflies that we feel in our stomach is when we're at the surface level having an interview or having a conversation, because then we're searching for what to say. But if you prep in advance and you have tangible examples of your work experience and how you made a difference in the company that you worked for previously, now you're grounded in what you're saying. So, for example, let's say you worked at a company before and you got an award for something, or you got praised for something, or maybe you were known for being the organized one or the troubleshooter. Whatever those qualities were, have a specific example in mind. So when you're talking about that work experience where you worked previously, rather than just rattling off a list of things you did or the surface conversation of what you did while you worked there, go into the deeper place of how you personally, as an employee for that company, made a difference. And then allow yourself to feel that pride wash over you. Allow yourself to get emotionally involved in how that felt to make a difference, and how the praise came to you from your coworkers or your boss previously, because that's what's going to give your next employer kind of that more insight to who you are. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that does make sense. I didn't really think of it that way, but that actually makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, and so what you want to do is just take your resume, take all the work experience you've done, and find one tangible story that you can tell. don't make it always about the to-do list of all the things you did, because that's what everybody's going to say. Give them your personality. Give them insight to your character. But if you do that, I promise you'll be great. And I definitely really appreciate you calling in.
Oh, thank you so much. This is definitely helpful. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Have a good rest of your day. And everybody, thank you. And everybody, when we come back, we're going to be joined by Ron Baseman talking about his, life story with being schizophrenic and what was involved with that. We'll be right back. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be back.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm gonna return the kayak. Just make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a taxi? 233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Don't you wish that getting your child to eat right, move more, and spend less time in front of a screen could be as easy as pushing a button? It might not be that simple, but you do have more power than you know. And you can maximize that power with proven strategies, tips, and tools from the National Institutes of Health's We Can, or Ways to Enhance Children's Activity and Nutrition program. We Can offers all kinds of resources, including fun recipes and activities the family can do together to show you the way to live a healthier lifestyle. We're not saying it's easy. We are saying that it can be done. Take the first step today. Call 1-866-359-3226 for a free We Can Parents Handbook. And be sure to visit the We Can website at wecan.nhlbi.nih.gov for free information too. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket.
Hit ignition.
And then
nothing. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Then out of nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
The rocket did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite. Look out! Look out! And then the pond.
I'll never forget that day.
I'll never forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about anxiety. Again, anxiety can come at many levels. It can be the everyday frustrations that we all get, the sleepless nights, but it can also be when we're diagnosed with a condition that causes a lot of anxiety, and it causes our life to be altered in many ways. I want to introduce our inspirational guest today, Ron Baseman. He's going to be sharing with us about his journey with being diagnosed with schizophrenia and how he recovered, what he did, the steps that it took, the various times that he was hospitalized, all the things that he had to endure. So I'd very much like to introduce Ron to the show. Hi.
Hi.
Well, hello. Thank you for joining us, Ron. Hey, I want to kind of jump in because there's so much to your story that I want to kind of make sure we have enough time. And it's a little windy where you are, but I can still hear you a bit.
Good.
So can you share with our audience, let's go back a bit to, I know the signs of your schizophrenia really started to manifest, come about when you were in your early 20s. Can you share with us about that?
Sure. Just to clarify or maybe confuse, I don't believe in the concept of schizophrenia. I was diagnosed with it, but there's a large segment of the professional and recovered people who don't believe that the diagnosis is really helpful at all. It's really a kind of blanket for a whole bunch of different conditions. So with that said, what I experienced I was 22 years old at the time, was I had felt trapped where I was. I had gone straight through school and received my master's in psychology at the age of 22. It was 1966, and I didn't know where I was going from there. I was a shy, introverted person who always felt like I had to remain hidden from others, so I just kind of presented a persona, and I was extremely unhappy at that time. And when I earned my master's degree in psychology, I didn't know what I was going to do next. It was the time where the Vietnam War was heating up, and I believed that I would be drafted soon, so I felt like it was a time where I had to do whatever I wanted to experience my life in a different way. So at the time, somehow I came to the conclusion that if I didn't care so much what people thought of me and judged me, it would free me up. And strangely enough, it did. It allowed me to give up all the inhibitions, the embarrassment, and I was able to almost be a different person. And what happened was I found people were noticing me more. I seemed more interesting. I could do more things. I wasn't bound by the need to present myself a certain way. With that came a sense of power within me. I felt like I could do things that other people couldn't do, and it kept getting more extreme at times. I was doing things that were not very logical or realistic or seemed to be who I was for most of my life. As an example.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would be some of those grandiose kind of things that you would do?
Well, one example was I had heard from somebody that if I enlisted in the Navy, I could get a lieutenant's commission and not go to Vietnam. What I would be doing psychological evaluations, mental health evaluations. So instead of exploring it further, I got a plane ticket, flew to Washington, D.C., went to the main naval offices and said I wanted to enlist. And Obviously, they said I had to go through an application procedure and go back to New Jersey. It was just one of the many things that I would do. I would just see myself as doing whatever I wanted at that time. Another example was,
during that time, you felt pretty entitled and just really not doing things rationally in the way that you're processing.
Well, I wouldn't call it entitled. I would call it more of going from one extreme, feeling insecure and anxious and unhappy, to feeling like I could do whatever I wanted. I could read people's minds. I could deny things that they believed, and I couldn't be proven wrong at that time. It seemed to escalate as time went on because I took on a different persona, a different personality. And at the time, I thought I could even increase it more by not sleeping, so I went without sleep. And that was alarming to the people in my family.
What was kind of the epic night that kind of alerted everybody to the fact that you needed help?
There wasn't an epic night. It was kind of an accumulation of things.
So at what point did you transition from being on your own to needing help, to going into like a hospital and needing further assistance?
Well, I didn't believe I needed help. My family believed that I needed help, and they insisted that I go to see a psychiatrist, and I felt like that would be fine because I would just prove to the psychiatrist that I had all these abilities. So I went to the psychiatrist. I had what was really maybe a 5-minute interview, and it was just a formality because he needed to have a face-to-face contact so that he could get me admitted to the hospital.
Mm. From
there, I was taken to a hospital, a general hospital with a psychiatric ward. And even at the admission procedure there, I thought that would be fine, because I would just prove to them who I was. And I didn't really understand the gravity of the situation until I was tied down.
Well, and first of all, I want to acknowledge the fact that, you really genuinely thought that you were in the right and you were going to prove everybody wrong. And then you slowly saw things getting more and more strict. And obviously being tied down was one of them. Shortly here, Ron, we're going to be going into a commercial break. So I'm going to want to come back in our next segment and talk about the times that you were hospitalized and kind of, what treatments you endured and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So if you can stay with us, that would be great. And everybody, we're going to be coming back in a break here shortly. We are with Ron Baseman. He is sharing with us his personal journey, and I'm proud of him and grateful for that. This is the Living Full Out show. And again, we'll be coming back right after this break.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
There are many sounds in your day-to-day life. There are sounds that wake you up. Sounds that make you smile. Sounds that energize you. And sounds that help you relax. But there are some sounds that can alert you to danger and can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you information about severe weather events, Amber Alerts, or other emergencies in your area. With critical information from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know, wherever you are. For more information, visit ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit theshelterpetproject.org and hear more about Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away at theshelterpetproject.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
What if I could tell you that a full-blown wildfire was going to occur tomorrow right where you live? Tell you exactly which neighborhoods it would engulf and how fast it would do it. The first thing you would do is talk with your loved ones and make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a wildfire will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you make a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about anxiety of all different levels. But for right now, we are joined by our inspirational guest, Ron Baseman, I'd like to bring back to the show. Ron, thank you so much for, first of all, sharing with us about, your journey here with schizophrenia. And again, you were so kind to clarify for us that has a lot of different layers to that, obviously. Now, you were just sharing with us about when you first went to your first hospital in terms of getting treatment, and that they had tied you down, and then you started to realize that this was a bit more serious than you had thought. What sort of treatments did they start doing to you to try to, stabilize you or help manage your thoughts?
Well, it is a bit complex. Let me start with where I was brought at first was a general hospital with a psychiatric ward. And there I was tied up and given a heavy-duty dose of tranquilizer psychiatric drugs. And I was transferred by ambulance to a psychiatric hospital at that time. I have no memory of the transfer. And when I woke up, I found myself in a seclusion room. What that is a small locked room with a mattress on the floor and a tiny barred window in the front. And I was completely confused when that happened. I didn't expect it, and I started yelling for people who let me out. And the more I yelled, there was no response. And if I yelled long enough, what would happen would be a nurse and two attendants, male attendants, would come in and give me an injection of I think at the time it was Thorazine. So I would be knocked out for maybe 6 or 7 hours, and the same cycle would begin, and that would go on and on. I don't know how long, probably about 10 days, until I finally got it through my head and that I was to stop yelling. And to stop yelling, this is not fair, you can't do this to me, I didn't do anything. And my voice would get hoarse. Eventually, when I stopped that, I was let out and I could walk around the wards. And the main source of treatment was to have psychiatric drugs administered. I had a strong resistance to giving in to what was required of me. So the amount of drugs would keep increasing. Let me just say as an aside, though, what I've found as a psychologist, and many people who have recovered, is the people who resisted the strongest, who didn't want to comply with treatment and were the angriest, tended to be the people who recovered, which is a kind of strange paradigm.
That's actually,
anyway, this went on.
That's actually very interesting, because I would have thought the opposite. And you told me once that you were even made fun of by doctors while you were there.
Oh, sure. Just to talk about that point that you made, what it means is people who really held on to who they were and had whatever you might call it, spirit or spark, did not give in. And even though they got the worst treatments, they maintained some sense of their own sense of dignity. An example of what you were talking about is frequently the psychiatrist come around frequently. He would make his rounds and talk to each of the people there for a few minutes. And when he saw me, he generally would walk around with what I'd like to think of as his posse. It would be a social worker, a couple of nurses, and maybe some interns or students. And he would say to me, do you still believe that you have special powers? Do you still believe that you have extrasensory perception? And for quite a while, without realizing it, I would say yes, and then he would say, well, then grow hair on my head, and then he'd turn to the people who were following him, and they'd all laugh, and then they'd walk away. So what happens when you are in that kind of confinement and forced treatment is you have little choice but to say what you're expected to say, what they wanted you to say. So because I didn't for a very long time, they didn't feel like the medications were working. So that was when they put me into insulin coma treatments, which has been banned at this point. I don't think there have been any given to anybody since the mid-'70s. Actually, I think the early 70s. And what that was is I would be put into insulin comas where I would get injections that would put me into a coma. And that would last a couple of hours. And the result of that was I lost my memory for a considerable period of time, and you become kind of lethargic. You really have no motivation. So they did that for 40 treatments. I guess that was about 8 weeks. And then they decided to release me. And the reason they stopped doing it was not because they thought that I was that much better or whatever. My insurance had run out, which is typically when people are discharged.
It's interesting, Ron, because when you got discharged, I'm sure you were just obviously very lethargic in some ways, because now here you were, you've just been through all these treatments, and your story has just so much to it, more than I feel we can even do justice today. But I want to jump to after you got out. The interesting thing is you found yourself in time interning for a hospital. Can you share with us about that?
Well, what happened was probably for about 6 months, I was, the only thing that I could say, the most apt term was I was like a zombie. I had put on an excessive amount of weight because when you have the insulin treatments, you have to have sugar solutions just to revive you, and you ate a lot. So I was, for the first time in my life, I was really overweight, and I had lost my memory. I didn't know people. I had a good friend who used to take me out, which was probably one of the most helpful things to my recovery. Otherwise, I would have just stayed in the house and slept. And after about 6 months, I started to move back a little into being my old self, which was not really what I would have desired. I wanted to move past that. But I was able to look for a job, and I got a job at the welfare board as a caseworker. I did that for about a year, and then I found out that I could do an internship at a state psychiatric hospital, and I could use that to pursue my career as a psychologist. So I decided to interview for the job. I was incredibly frightened going back to do that, but I felt like it was a really needed step. I mean, to step back into the psychiatric hospital, and I felt like people would see right through me and realize that I was just a mental patient, not a person who could actually do the work. But what happened was I did that internship, and it actually built up my confidence because I was able to understand things a little better than people who hadn't been through the experience. I understood that what people needed more than the medication was to be listened to be respected for what they said. So when I would see people, I would generally take them around the grounds. I'd talk with them on the bench. I would take them over to the cafeteria to get some coffee. We would share cigarettes. At the time, I smoked. Mm-hmm. So I seemed to be doing well, and after that, I had 6 months internship in a psychiatric hospital, and I jumped into the water again by interning in a maximum security prison, and there I learned a lot too. I learned a lot about myself and what I could do.
Well, it's
those experiences were, the foundation for me to move further.
Well, and Ron, it's really interesting because you had really been on both sides. You had been a patient, and you'd obviously been on the other side in healing and helping others in their recovery. And with the limited time we have left in our segment today, I want to talk about mental health and what is it that we should know about this process. We see so many people out there. It might be somebody walking on the street. Maybe they're homeless, maybe they're not. It might be someone that somebody knows who's going through this. How, as a community, can we be better at spotting this or managing this?
On one level, it would look like an immense task. On another level, it's not. People respond to compassion. People need to be seen for who they are. Everybody has a story. They didn't just wind up being where they were. And most people will respond to other people if you deal with them as an individual, as a person that has value. If you dismiss people, then they wind up hovering on the fringes of society. The biggest problem we have at this point, and where my work is directed, is to find a way for people to be included in the community so that they live as one of your neighbors, they work side by side with you. There's a great deal of discrimination. People call it stigma, but it's actually discrimination, that it makes it difficult for people to find a place to live, to join in the community like anybody else. That is the healing possibilities for people.
Well, and that makes sense. And it's, you read to me so eloquently one time something you had written about your own recovery, and that's longer than we have time for today. But when you just speak from the heart and you talk about your recovery and what it meant to you, can you just share with us briefly about that?
There's a lot of elements to it. The biggest possibility for people is when they keep hope alive. When there is hope, possibilities always exist. And I think within each of us, we have a spirit that doesn't really get broken. I think it gets broken on the surface But what happens is it climbs into a secret hiding place within our souls. Mm-hmm. And with the right opportunity, it can emerge and become stronger. Who we are, we can become more of who we are. The foundation is in hope.
You know what? I love that, and that's so living full out on every term in our life. You know, as long as we hold on to hope, we really can become and evolve to who we want to be. And Ron, I just want to thank you very much for being on our show today. And you know, we'll definitely be in touch with you and stay, you know, fans of yours as well. But thank you so much for being on our show.
Can I just say one thing? There's a lot of material.
I'm so sorry. We're kind of wrapping up, but again, I want to thank you for being on the show. We're just going to go to commercial break here any second, but thank you.
I appreciate it, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, Ron, thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, everybody, that was Ron Baseman. Honestly, his story has much more to say, so check it out. I'm Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be back shortly taking your calls. Stay tuned.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
The following message is about Medicaid and CHIP, free or low-cost health coverage for kids and teens. Enrollment is open year-round.
Hey, voice lady, give me the mic.
Okay.
Hey, DJ, let's switch up the music. That's better. So listen up, moms and dads out there. There are these programs called Medicaid and CHIP. They offer free or low-cost health coverage for kids. Things like doctor and dentist visits, prescriptions, and shots are covered. All the stuff that keeps kids like me healthy and in charge.
So, as you can tell, a covered kid is a confident kid. And it means confident parents, too. To learn more about affordable health coverage for your family, visit healthcare.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. That's 1-877-543-7669.
Yep, you could do something big for your family today because enrollment is open year-round.
This has been a message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And Sophia.
They're going to jump out of trees. You can't stop them. They'll go down the slide head first. They'll make parachutes out of sheets. They'll balance on things that are impossible to balance on, like the back of a couch or a windowsill or a scooter seat. They'll run with sharp objects. They'll run into walls. They'll climb things that won't hold their weight. They'll put their fingers in places where they could get smashed. They'll drive their tricycles down steep hills. They'll bounce balls off their faces. They'll step on each other. They'll jump on each other. They'll invent whole new ways to put themselves in jeopardy. But one of the most dangerous things kids will do happens while they're sitting perfectly still. Kids who ride in a car without a booster seat are much more likely to suffer serious or fatal injury during a crash than kids in boosters. But amazingly, 80% of all kids who need them aren't in them. After a toddler seat and until they're 4'9", booster kids, and don't let them down.
Go to boosterseat.gov to learn more about the importance of boosters. A message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Hey, Nick Cannon here. So we all know we've got a lot of talent in America. But unfortunately, there's something else we've got way too much of. Childhood hunger. 17 million kids struggle with it in this country. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gather surplus food to give hope to hungry kids and their families. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
We're your pets, and this song's dedicated to those people who don't have health insurance yet. Enroll, we say. We want you to be okay. Enroll, we say. Take care, people, for goodness sake.
Health insurance is now affordable and covers prescriptions, hospitalizations, and preventive care. Visit getcoveredamerica.org to learn more.
And take care, people.
Brought to you by Get Covered America and the Ad Council.
To be anxious in life is completely normal. It's part of our everyday, every week, every year, ins and outs of just being and living. But you have the ability to control that anxiety. You have the ability to seek support, and most of all, keep yourself motivated. Every time you look at a situation that's challenging or negative, if you can just get through the fire, if you can just get over the hill, around the corner, there will be light. There will be freedom. There will be your ability to live life full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you again for joining us. It's the Living Full Out Show. I'm Nancy Solari, and during the show, we've been talking about anxiety. And I mean, honestly, this has been an anxiety-driven week for me, dealing with family issues and health conditions that seem to be getting a little bit more serious. And, you know, you might be suffering with your own challenges, your own stresses. And the thing is, whenever we're stressed, we just have to find a place of balance. We have to find a way to center ourselves, talk to people that bring us laughter, or find ways in which we can get inspired. And hopefully today's show, in some ways, has opened an outlet for you to access one of those support systems. We're going to go to the phone lines and check in with one of our callers. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hello.
Hi,
How are
thank
you?
I'm good. Thank you for calling. How can I assist you today?
I have a question for you. My father-in-law is elderly. He's 86, and he's been ill for a couple of years. Neither he nor my mother-in-law speak English, and my husband is the only child. We live about 4 hours from them. Well, a couple of months ago, my father-in-law had heart surgery, and the surgery went well, but because he had pre-existing Alzheimer's, it was exacerbated, and since then, my husband has been living down in the Miami area, and I know he feels an obligation, since he's the only child, to take care of his parents, but he hasn't been home, like I said, in 2 months, and I don't see a resolution coming anytime soon because his parents, specifically his mom, won't move here, and she doesn't want us to move the father here for extended care because she says she wouldn't be able to visit him regularly. So my question is when I bring things up to my husband about some solutions that I feel could happen, and that I think that we, his family here, we have children, should be more at the top of the list. I'm not quite sure that he's hearing me, and I'm a pretty strong person, so I'm managing things fine here, but I don't know if that makes it easier for him to say, I can stay down and live basically in Miami, or, you know, should I sit back and let things try to resolve themselves, or do I keep pushing for a resolution that he's more time with his own family?
Well, you know, you bring up a good question, and thank you for giving me all that back history on it because it's important. But I have a feeling that you've maybe had this conversation with a few friends too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
and so in life, a lot of times when we have all this going on with, especially health issues, health conditions can cause a lot of technical talk, meaning there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of people to see and people to please, and hours spent in doctors and hospitals and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have to kind of take all that away, you have to strip all that away, and you have to bring it down to the basics of you and your husband, and let everything else fade away. Because if you allow it all to be a part of the conversation, it becomes noise, and your husband might not be able to hear that noise amongst everything he's dealing with. But if he hears you and just your heart, not the suggestions, not all that, just you. So you need to meet him where he is. And the best way to communicate these thoughts with him, whether it be by email, a handwritten note, I won't do text, or a face-to-face, or a phone call. But you want to speak from the heart, and you want to let him know how you feel. Has nothing to do with his father, has nothing to do with your kids. Just if you and him break down, everything will break down. So you have to remember to keep your marriage strong, keep your friendship strong. And part of that is not feeling heard. You don't feel heard. Part of that is not having that intimate time just together, to be a couple. So you have to come to him as you, his wife, coming to your husband, with everything else fade away, and you need to let him know how you feel. And maybe, that you miss him, and that you're not trying to put extra pressure on him. But at the end of the day, if you and him become more distant, if this family unit of yours starts to fall apart or things get stressed out there, it'll only make his life harder. So you want to catch that now. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely.
And don't...
Yeah, you're right, because I'm shutting down and I don't want to shut down.
Right, and in your letter or in your conversation, no doctors. Don't even talk about the father-in-law. Don't even talk about the kids. It's all about you and him, because that's what's really eating at you. You miss him. You're sad.
Very much, yeah.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, that is it. So talk from your heart and let him know how you feel, and make it very clear that this is just you to him and that you miss him. And if you do that, he will hear you, because I guarantee he feels the same way. He just has lost himself in this process because of all that noise. You need to block out the noise and bring him back to you.
Well, thank you. You brought a lot of light to the situation for me, tremendously.
Well, great. And you know what? I believe in your marriage, and you will get through this. But sometimes you got to slow down the car, block out the noise, and let you and him have your time. Okay?
Thank you. That's just what I needed today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to the show today, our entire Living Full Out team here. And we've got Sam and Debbie and Mindy and Rich, and we're all here to motivate you each week. I want to thank our Ron Baseman, our inspirational guest. Again, go to connect@livingfullout.com if you want to chat with us and tell us how you were inspired by today's show, or go to livingfullout.com to see or hear today's show and past shows. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.